my wrongs, I have just begun. Ain't no mercy, ain't no mercy. Huh. Got that purple Lamborghini lurking. Ain't no mercy, ain't no mercy. Huh. Got that purple Lamborghini lurking. Razer. Don't be begging for your life, cause that's a lost cause.
What's cracking, guys? Razer Vasquez back with a Overwatch video and my problems with the overtime time, so I'll call it the overtime period. Personally, I don't like it, and I'm going to give my fixes on it, because I may not like something, but if I don't give fixes on it, my argument is really invalid, because I couldn't think of a better way, showing that Blizzard probably thought of a better way than I did. Now, my 3 fixes, plus a little bonus fix that's not really traditional, aren't the only fixes that can happen. You know, there are thousands upon millions of fixes that can happen. These are just I came up with about 5 minutes of thinking. They're a little bit creative, and they all share some kind of common characteristics within one another. So, without further ado, let me actually start what the overtime actually is. Really what it is without my fixes. So, overtime activates when there's 0 seconds left in a match. Or round, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure each round gets an overtime too. Overtime lasts about 3 seconds when there's no active attacker on the point or payload. So when there's no active attacker, the overtime drowns, and then, you know, after the 3 seconds it's done. When an attacker is on a pointer payload, it lasts an infinite amount of time. It lasts until there's no attackers on the point or no defenders on the point, and then the defenders get it to the, the destination, or they capture the point. So overtime is infinite, and then the time after the overtime is infinite. So on the point, if you're playing the PvP, like get the point objective, the time after overtime is actually infinite. It's until one of the other team wins. If the defenders lose the point on the payload, you get an extra 2 minutes or whatever that map has to escort the next payload to the next objective, or they win if they transported it to the last objective. So, my possible fix 1, again, these could be changed in any way, shape, or form, and are not set in stone. Overtime lasts 60 seconds when an attacker is on a point or payload. So no matter what, it's not an infinite amount of time. Overtime lasts 60 seconds. When no one's on the payload, it lasts 15 seconds. So it drowns, and it takes 15 seconds to actually kind of stop the overtime when no attacker, I should say, is on the point or payload. However, time does not reset. So let's say for 7 seconds, no attacker is on the payload or point, and then an attacker is on the payload or point, they got 30 seconds to get their shit done. And say if they were 14 seconds, then that would mean they got about 4 seconds to get shit done. Each attacker kill bonuses or grants 3 seconds to the active time, or to the full 60 seconds, plus 3 seconds. The payload moves at 5% of normal speed when it is contested. So when there's both attackers and defenders on the payload, it moves at 5% normal speed. I did this to kind of give an advantage to the attackers, because a good team will kind of contest the payload, jump around. If you have a tracer, she's actually really good at jumping around and contesting the payload. That payload is staying there. I don't care if you have 4 attackers and 1 tracer defending. That tracer is a good tracer. That payload is not moving. This is just kind of to help the attackers in this one. The point, however, caps at 10% its normal speed if the attackers outweigh the defenders of the point. So say the red team's attacking and they have 3 characters on the point. The blue team's defending and they have 2 characters on the point. That point caps at 10% of its normal speed. Now if there's 3 and 3, no capping goes on at all. It is normally contested. If it's 4 and 3, again, no capping goes at all. It's normally contested. So that's just kind of a way that I gave an advantage to the attackers in some way. That's basically no extra benefits for fix 1, so that one's it. Fix 2, overtime lasts 90 seconds when an attacker is on an active payload or point, and it lasts 25 seconds when there's no active attacker on the payload or point. Again, the time does not reset. Do the math, however many seconds they are. If they're 5 seconds out of the 25, whatever. There's no extra attacker or defender benefits in this one, so this is strictly a race against the time. The payload does not move at that 5% rate. The point does not capture at that 10% rate I gave it. It's basically the normal contested, so the payload or point do not get capped or move forward. Fix 3, which is personally the one that I just kind of screwed up on a little bit. I'm not sure how these actually work. Overtime lasts 2 minutes or 120 seconds when an attacker is on the point or payload. Overtime lasts 30 seconds when no attacker is on the point or payload. Again, time does not reset, yada yada. Defending kills take 10 seconds off the overtime. So each time an attacker is killed, that's 10 seconds off their overtime. However, attacking kills grant 5 seconds to the active time. So each time an attacker kills a defender, an extra 5 seconds is added to the overtime, and no extra benefits are in this kind of fix. So the payload does not move that 5%. The point is not captured at that 10% I gave it, as in the first fix. It's just normal, just with a different kind of time scheme, I should say. The bonus one isn't really an overtime for a payload, more the point objective where the two teams have to get the objective. And this one's just kind of for funsies. I know there is a sudden death in competitive, but I think the way my sudden death works, it's actually very different from the competitive one. So the sudden death is for point objectives only. If both teams are at 98 to 99% during overtime, sudden death will occur. It lasts 30 seconds, and team with the most standing players wins. There are no respawns during this time. Teams can also capture objectives during this time. Doing so will win the round or game. So basically, if both teams are both alive during the sudden death, it's basically a sudden death. No one respawns, and team with the most amount of characters alive wins. And I think this is just a weird fix. It really shouldn't be a fix. It was just something I kind of came up with, and oh yeah, that may be kind of cool. But I also gave the objectives maybe a cap boost, because say if one team has 3 characters while sudden death occurs, and the other team has 4 characters while sudden death occurs, characters who are already dead instantly spawn in. Just making sure, or it could go 2 ways. They either instantly spawn in or they remain dead. I thought if they remain dead, the point captures at like a 1.5 times normal rate, because the team with the most characters would automatically win if the point wasn't capturable. The other team would have to kill 2 players, and for that's just a major disadvantage, because they have to kill 2 players and the other team has a player advantage. So capping the point automatically wins the round or game. You don't need to wait that extra kind of quarter second, half second for that percentage to kind of count towards. Especially if you're at 98%, that's like another second. If you capture the point, you basically win anyway, but I'm just kind of speeding up the game. Anyway, those were some weird fixes to the overtime rules in Overwatch. I think overtime is a good thing in Overwatch, don't get me wrong. I just don't like how it's done. I always got a lot of people or friends saying, you don't like overtime because you lost a lot or you won a lot. I've lost and won a lot in overtime, and it is one of the more exciting parts in overtime. But especially with the payload objective, you're given an allotted amount of time. If you're not there in the amount of time that you're given, you should lose. You're already given 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, whatever. if you don't make it within that time zone or time frame, you should lose. You shouldn't get an extra 5 minutes during overtime. I've seen posts on Reddit saying, oh, I had a 5-minute overtime, and when we wiped them, they only had a half second to actually get to the payload. Which is, I mean, no overtime should really last 5 minutes. 5 minutes is longer than most of the fucking round. An average round for me is about 11 minutes for a winning round. A 5-minute overtime, especially if you're the losing team, which for me is average like 7 minutes, that's a long fucking overtime. That is like half the normal round. I just don't think that should really happen. I understand it's exciting, but it just ruins the kind of competitive play, and it's really a test of endurance when it really shouldn't be. Because 5 minutes of straight action, even for a lot of really good players, can be exhausting, surprisingly. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoyed my ideas for the fix of Overwatch. It's not really broken, but if it were fixed in any other way, if the overtime was an infinite amount of time, if it wasn't, I would be happy. Even if it was a maximum, or even if it was like 3 or 4 minutes, at least it's not infinite, and at least 5-minute overtimes aren't happening that often. Thank God for that. Thank God I finished this video without stuttering too much, and watch out for a setup video that I might do for 4,200 views, because, you know, 420. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this Overwatch kind of commentary. Sorry for the gameplay. I think it's a Lucio ball. I'm not sure. I'm actually recording the voice first. I just have a bunch of Lucio ball I have a bunch of Lucio ball recorded that I never used. So yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I have to get rid of this video, so I'm gonna leave you guys right here. I'll see you in the next one.